of the Leadership for Change internship program that we're going to talk about, and Leanne is one of our former supervisors, so we thought it was great for you to be able to hear from people who have been through the program. And we just discovered this morning that Aspen, Autumn, and I all, well, they're still in school, but we all attended women's colleges. We found that this morning, different ones, but so it's fun just sort of talking about their experiences and hearing about that. So I'm going to start big picture about the Smithsonian that you may or may not already know, but the Smithsonian is the world's largest museum, education, and research center, largely based in Washington, D.C., but we do have facilities in New York City and in other parts of the world. We were founded in the 1800s, and our mission has remained the same for one tiny change, but I love this postage stamp from 1946 that was issued at the 100th anniversary of the Smithsonian. It has our mission for the increase and diffusion of knowledge. We have since dropped the among men part, which I'm happy to say, but the other piece has remained the same. And so really that just means that we're interested in doing the research to gain new knowledge and then get it out to the public, whether it's through our museums or other programs that we do. Our current secretary is Lonnie Bunch III, pictured here. He's the 14th secretary of the Smithsonian, the first African-American leader, and the first historian to lead the institution. We've traditionally had scientists as leaders. And Lonnie has this really bold vision for the Smithsonian to be in every home and classroom in the nation. And really, as you see in this is from some congressional testimony that he gave a couple of years ago, but he likes to think about people being able, no matter where they are, being able to access the Smithsonian, be able to dip into this wonderful reservoir of knowledge. And so that's really where the work of my office comes in. So again, we're sites and Smithsonian affiliation, and our whole job is to get the Smithsonian out beyond Washington. So we never do anything on the mall. Everything we do is across the country. So we are the institution's primary national engagement arm. So again, how do we take all the wonderful things that are happening in the museums and research centers in DC and get them out to people across the country? So we think about connecting Smithsonian content, resources, and expertise with communities across the nation, and we reach about 30 million people each year through that work, which is the same number of people who visit the museums on the National Mall. So we're essentially able to double the institution's reach through the work that we do. So again, we connect the Smithsonian with communities nationwide, and our vision is to have the Smithsonian in every community and every community engaged with the Smithsonian. And one of the ways we do that is through our Leadership for Change internship. This program was established in 2021, so we're coming into we just started our 5th summer of interns last week. In those 5 years, we've had more than 400 students from nearly every state and a number of different countries. And what's interesting about this program is that we place students both at the Smithsonian, but we also place them at our affiliate partners across the country. Leanne's organization, UCAR, is one of 200 or so affiliates that we have. So students have the option to intern in DC or across the country. And we're really, this is the first of its kind. The Smithsonian until our program, had never really thought about internships across the nation. So we're really excited to be able to pilot that and take that forward. So we've been at 41 different affiliates in 26 states and 23 different Smithsonian offices. I know people are always wondering about, we just kicked off our 2025 season last year, but we'll be launching applications in December of this year for next summer. It's quite competitive. We tend to get between 500 and 1,000 applications. This year we have 28 placements, so it's quite competitive. But our goal is to serve undergraduate students, rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors, including those who attend schools in rural communities and community colleges. We're really interested in finding students and reaching students who might not think of the Smithsonian, A, for an internship at all, but B, they might not think of the Smithsonian as a place for themselves. So we think about recruiting really widely in lots of different kinds of schools and have developed a pretty robust, aggressive recruiting strategy over the last few years. Importantly, it's a fully paid experience, so this includes not only a stipend for the work, but also housing and travel. So if you're staying in an affiliate community like our 2 alums here, then we pay for housing and travel to get to that place. So we're really trying to take away any economic barrier. So again, any student that wants to and is qualified has the opportunity to participate. And so again, students either intern at Smithsonian organizations across the country or at the Smithsonian. And another thing that I think sets this apart from many other internships, at least at the Smithsonian, is we're not necessarily trying to build the museum pipeline or workforce, although we have lots of students who come into the internship and discover their interest in museums and are pursuing careers, but we're really actually trying to help students understand the role that museums and cultural organizations like the Smithsonian and like our affiliates can play in helping us understand some of the biggest and most complex issues in front of us. So we're looking at things like climate change, educational equity. We look at things like immigration, race and social justice. So looking at these big issues that are facing the entire world, but what is the unique role that museums have to play in helping people understand them and then hopefully solve them? And so part of what we do, the students dive into a project in one of those areas that interests them, and they really come out, I think, becoming museum advocates. So whether they decide to pursue a career in museums or not, understanding the role that museums can play and the important role that they play in our society and culture. So I'm going to stop there with the overview, and we're going to turn now to a conversation. And we will have time for a Q&A at the end, so please be thinking about your questions. All right, we're going to share mics. So I'm curious, Autumn and Aspen, what initially attracted you to the Leadership for Change internship, and if there was anything that was maybe different or special compared to other opportunities that you might have been looking at?
Well, initially I heard about the program we were at college, and I'm a pretty non-traditional student. I took grade school in 2020. When I returned last January 2024, because of the small environment at school, and the fact that I never known that I had an interest in art history and museums, she sent me to the Leadership for Change internship program. It seemed as if all my interests that I kind of wanted to pursue a deeper into, especially coming back to school after being away some time.
Yeah, I also kind of heard about it through my college. They have a couple of different internship days, and one of them talked about the Smithsonian and different things like that. And also, I just know about NSF Commerce, where the museum is that I did the internship through, and then I knew about it through that. And so I decided to apply, and here I am now, so it's very exciting.
And Aspen and Leanne actually worked together. So Leanne was Aspen's supervisor. But Leanne, what was so interesting to you to think about as a supervisor, what were you hard post-Leadership for Change interns?
Yeah, so we kind of took on the program the summer before I started on my specific education team. And so I kind of pulled some information from those who were supervisors at that time. It was about kind of trying to get more involved in some of those Smithsonian affiliate initiatives like we were mentioning. And then just networking as well. And I got to know quite a few different folks from different Smithsonian affiliates since we kind of joined the program. And then for me specifically, what kind of brought my interest in as a supervisor, I was approached by our manager and asked if I wanted to kind of co-supervise the program last summer, and I was very interested as I kind of always liked to play that mentor role and try to guide younger folks kind of coming into that particular job or different career path, and try to just help be that mentor, that guide for them. So that's kind of what pulled me in personally.
Yeah, it's great to hear both about sort of the, I don't know, public facing is the right word, but the mentorship, but also kind of behind the scenes, the networking and professional opportunity for you too. So we love to hear when we're able to kind of have that tool, the behind the scenes and the yeah. So Aspen, you interned at UCAR, and Autumn, where did you do your internship?
I interned at the Seaport Museum in specializing specifically in maritime history, but also in services.
So So you can see really different organizations, a lot of science focused, looking at climate and related issues, and then Autumn will talk a little bit more about her really fascinating work. But so like the Smithsonian, Smithsonian is interdisciplinary, it's supposed to be art, culture, and science, and so we look for opportunities that span these disciplines. So we're able to attract students who come from sort of all different kinds of majors and interest areas. So before I kind of get into more of the nitty gritty, how would you describe your overall experience as part of the program?
I thoroughly enjoy my experience. It's developed like the most balanced professional setting that I could have ever been in. Being out of school, being like the real world, seeing what the workforce is like, not going super satisfied, and being able to be in space where I felt like I was supported and pushed through academically and personally. It was a wonderful experience overall.
Yeah, the overall experience is actually amazing. I don't know exactly where I want to go with my career. I know like kind of an idea of what I want to do, and so it was a really unique experience to be in a space that was both museum and getting to work with kind of climate and atmospheric sciences, which I'm also very interested in. And so it was a really great balance of, on one side of doing just like wonderful things, and all the people that I met, whether it was little kids doing the learning labs and field trips, and all of the professionals working at the museum with the lab space, was just an amazing experience. So.
Can you talk a little bit more about the projects you worked on and what a typical day looked like during your internship?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a typical day because it was kind of different every single day, but my main project that I was working on was a visual schedule. It's an accessibility tool for students who will be visiting during the field trips and might need a little extra help just understanding and anticipating where you might be going during the day. And so I created 2 of those, and they're up on the UCOR website now, which is really exciting to see. But then I also assisted with the field trips, and so I helped Leanne and other people guide different things, whether that was my favorite one, there was a hurricane building one, and so you had to build a structure and it got tested from a hurricane. And so it was just trying to see like how long that could withstand it, just because it's a great introduction to different atmospheric sciences and things like that. And so I think my day-to-day was mostly just working on that deliverable and doing different learning labs and meeting with different people within the lab space, I guess, whether that is, because when I went to the internship, I said that I wanted to do, I was asked, like, what do you want from this internship? And I said, and all the things that I said on the thing, but then I also said I wanted to network more, just to build my the connections that I have. And so Leanne and Katie, the other supervisor, great help with that. So I was able to meet a bunch of different people through that. Oh, and I also assisted with different teacher workshops. So it was interesting to see both the learning side and the teaching side.
Yeah, it sounds like a great variety. How about you, Autumn? What was your experience like?
Yeah, it was similar to us in the sense that it wasn't a typical day each day. But overall, my main project this summer was looking into artifacts belonging to the person in the museum does. That they did in the museum's wall for about 40 years, have very little information, and it was just something that does. But at the same time, the museum, the seaport was working a lot with, we're talking a lot about natural repatriation. Indigenous artifacts were kind of reiterating or returning some parts of their cultural identity. So specifically, we were looking at indigenous artifacts from either we would a lot at the Pacific Islands, so things from maybe New Zealand or Australia, and the project system is basically trying to build a story of the islands from around it, because like I said, there's very limited information to go off of. So it was really actually what's happening every day where I had to learn how to do deeper research, I had to piece together stories myself. Then I also got to learn about other aspects of history and sources that I didn't really consider. Like some of the artifacts I was looking at were all made by indigenous people, but I got to see an intersect with where climate change kind of comes into those historical spaces, because a lot of our artifacts that I looked at,
I would come across some articles that would talk about a reduction in manufacturing food because of seasonal changes in world partnerships and less access to it. So it kind of moved on into different spaces or avenues in this field of different sources. But we also have the opportunity to learn, hear from different museum staff just to speak to different roles that are necessary to keep the learning. And I don't think this was something really weird in person to begin with, but being in that space felt very rewarding, just sort of something that I didn't know I was interested in.
Great. And Dan, what was your experience like as a supervisor, and what were the kinds of projects? We heard a little bit about gas food and other kinds of things that you work with the students on.
Yeah, so one of the challenges when Katie and I were looking into kind of, all right, what are we going to have these folks do? What do we have them help with? How do we kind of, schedule them day to day? And, we wanted them to have a lot of time to work on the projects and a lot of freedom to do professional development themselves, but also give them enough to do to where they felt like it was a good balance. And so we kind of, between the two projects that we made, so as Aspen said, she worked on our very visual schedules that we provide for educators to help with their students' experience. And then Zoe, our other intern, worked on a teacher resource page for us, so something we provide to educators when they come for their field trips, that they need some more supplemental materials and things like that. So kind of keeping them busy with that, but also wanting to give them experiences of interacting with the audiences that we interact with, so K-12 students as well as the public, and the different outreach things that we do, both on-site and off-site, but then also providing them opportunities to learn more about this subject that they were very interested in, that they were, of course, on-site with us for, and as Aspen said, being able to kind of meet with some of our scientists and connect with some of these other professionals and just kind of pick their brain with different questions and what do they do for their careers to kind of just give them the best experience that they could while they were with us on site. And then we were always, happy to bring them in to kind of help with, the classroom activities and helping us with different tasks. But we didn't want them to feel like we were just, kind of free labor kind of thing, right? There was definitely a good balance for that we loved having them on site, but we wanted them to get the most out of that experience as they could. So I'd say that probably sums up kind of the things that we had.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things at the Smithsonian we're really clear about is that internships aren't jobs, they are learning experiences. And so sometimes that can be a little bit of a shift for some folks. So it's wonderful to hear, Aspen, that you created the visual schedules that now are useful for you, but you also have something to point to. And I know a lot of you also were able to sort of walk away with, having produced something which is really awesome. We love it when students can walk away with something in their portfolio, and then something that also is a resource with the institution, but the primary goal is really learning. And so if there isn't, a product, if you will, then that's okay too. And it's really about, we talk a lot about networking. Autumn and I were just talking about that this morning about networking, and we put a lot of emphasis on that. I was saying I'm not a good networker, and so I need to be taking this advice too. But we talk a lot about networking, and I love to hear that both of you had an experience to sort of customize it a little bit. And so, like this summer, as I mentioned, our interns just arrived on last Monday, and we already had a student reach out and say, I'm really interested in bugs. Can I talk to a curator in entomology at the Museum of Natural History? So we're working on setting that up, which is sort of outside and totally different from the project that they're working on. But we really want to be able to maximize their time and find those opportunities. I'm curious, since you've both been out of program a year now, I'm curious sort of how the internship, or if the internship has continued to have impact either on your academic interests or your professional journey, and if so, how?
So as I mentioned, during my research, I started to notice different patterns regarding climate change intersections with history or artifacts. It was an interesting space to be in. At the conclusion of my program, where all the interns were required to do a presentation and share about their experiences, what they learned and what the biggest takeaways were. So because of the internship, I got really kind of fixated on this concept of climate change as proportion types of indigenous communities, specifically coastal communities. And I mentioned this in my presentation, and it really focuses on this, but someone from the program also insisted, which we're to college, it's a consistency board, is where they try to get back and join the program, but specifically, we're doing research, like deeper research into this new topic that I just came across program, but I got to dive deeper into this area of interest just because of the research that I was doing and so on.
Awesome. I love hearing things like that.
Yeah, for me, it kind of just further emphasized that this is the right path for me. I've always known I want to go into environmental science and working on outreach and education through that because climate change is this huge, scary thing, and it is absolutely daunting, but, we can do something about it, and so I want to be on those front lines kind of helping educate people about the different things that we can do to help with climate change. And so through this internship, I just saw all the different ways that they help people from, preschool on, learn about climate change and all the things we can do with that, and also just about different atmospheric sciences and climate sciences, just because it's really the same interesting field. And so that's kind of how it's helped me, was just kind of further emphasizing, like, this is the right path for me. I know exactly what I want to do. And so, yeah, it's very, very exciting to have this opportunity.
That's great. I think I love to hear the sort of the reinforcement or the aha moment of I didn't really know I was interested in this. I was speaking with one of our other alums a couple of months ago, and she came to she worked at the Smithsonian in Washington, and she actually interned in our Office of Government Relations, which is just what it sounds, a group that helps advocate for us. And she actually was really excited about the internship because she thought she wanted to go to law school. Well, actually, she loved her internship, but it actually made her realize she did not want to go to law school. But she's pursuing kind of a different public policy path now. And so it's great when we see these experiences that either reinforce or teach you something new, or say, actually, that's not what I want to do, but I learned all these other things. So, and Leanne, I'm curious, before you worked with Aspen and Zoe, had you worked with other sort of early career professionals, and whether you have or not, what was something new that you learned from the experience or that you've taken forward after supervising them?
Yeah, I had worked with other young professionals within my education background, my education career, and this was the first time I worked with young professionals within the environmental and atmospheric sciences arena. And so it was really amazing to see. We were very excited when we first, heard that we had our two interns selected, and I was just very excited to, read their resumes and their bios, and just, oh my gosh, this is a background, and so I was doing this, and we were just so excited to have them on site because we knew, even before, meeting them in person, that they were going to be a good fit for this program and just want to learn as much as they could, and that's exactly what the case was. And, some things I took away, just, kind of going back to the scheduling thing, that, you don't necessarily have to provide them with something every minute because their drive and wanting to learn as much as they can and use that opportunity to the best of their, that experience to the best of their ability was kind of a big part of that. And, kind of just knowing their liability, just kind of look at its workplace in general, just knowing that call on them to, come help us with a class, or I pulled I think just, their willingness to jump in and the knowledge that they came in with, their area of study, teaching us things as well, which is pretty amazing. So quite a bit I took away from this, and I think society can kind of look down on the young professionals and the young people and I'm not going to try and things like that. And I mean, there's so much out there that these young professionals just want to dive right into, and that is such a joy to see as a supervisor.
Yeah, I would say that when our intern season is 8 weeks, internship is 8 weeks, and so it's like my favorite 8 weeks of the year. Just the energy that the interns bring, whether you're in our office or elsewhere, they're really, all these really bright young people who are just already leaders and already making really positive changes, but then coming into these internships and learning more and learning your own knowledge and walking away, as you heard, but also leaving behind at the institutions where they intern in a really big part. So it's super satisfying from where I sit. So I'm going to actually throw a question at you that we didn't talk about in the end, but I think you're going to do great. What is something that you learned or discovered that was maybe a surprise, and it could be like a fact that you learned, or it could be something you learned about yourself, or the work world, or it can be anything. We didn't prepare this, so.
The question is, what was something interesting?
Yeah, that you learned, maybe like that surprised you, or fascinated you.
Well, one of the opportunities we had access to while we went to as interns with the Smithsonian was the option to sit in on academic seminars or different classrooms or lectures taught because they had something all at once. So they had graduate students or career professionals going to learn more about their select areas, which was very kind of students. And in one of the classes I was getting on, was about how the during Spanish colonization, when they were able to mass, the virtues that they learned from the seaboard that what made it a lot better there overall as a country. That was actually prepared by slaves, by writers. So there were slaves that rolled around Africa like 6 or 7 minutes, and they were the reason for the massive unfold, like massive amount of wealth they had, just because they were the ones that were here, and none of your things was finished. Others couldn't do that.
That is interesting.
That is super interesting. I feel like the entire experience was a learning experience. I feel like every day I was like, I didn't know anything about that, or I learned something new, or whatever it was. So it was hard choosing just like one or two. But I think the first one that came to mind was there was one day where we went to, you have to remember the name, where the airplanes are stored. The research engaging facility. So we got to go on the planes that actually do expeditions across the world, and some of them, then one had just come back, was preparing for one that was a 6-month expedition in Sweden, and so the scientists and researchers actually stayed in Sweden, and I was like, how do I get to do that? Like Sweden for 6 months and just research all the different atmospheric things and all the different things like that. And so there's also like just learning about all the equipment that's on these planes and all the amazing things that they're like able to do, and each time we do these expeditions, we learned so much more, which was just like super fascinating to learn about. And it's also like we also got to go on the plane that like famously like follows the solar eclipses, and so if like you see a picture of an airplane following a solar eclipse, it's probably that plane. And then also we had opportunities, I think it was once a week, maybe, I think so, where we got to hear from the Smithsonian about different things that happened there. And so, I mean, the Smithsonian is this vast institution that does so much amazing work. And I just remember one of the things that we learned about was the program that goes in to help save culture and art. And so if any area has a threat to culture or art that people in the Smithsonian promote and help safeguard. And so there was this picture of these like very old and very interesting statues from Ukraine in the basement of this like old wine cellar. That was it. They had turned into this like community control room. So they saved all this different art. And so that was really, really interesting to learn about.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite things from last summer too. So we bring, the students are, even if they're at the Smithsonian, they're all over the place and all over the country. So we bring them together virtually about once a week for different sessions, both to share more about the Smithsonian, but also to hear from different leaders and hear about leadership lessons and how they navigate their careers. And one of our colleagues was from the Smithsonian Cultural Rescue Initiative, which is exactly what it sounds like. We were both domestically, internationally, it could be after a natural disaster in Ukraine. We've been working there since the start of the war with Russia, and helping communities preserve culture. And it is one of those things that you just don't imagine somebody's job actually is. And the young woman that we got to speak was not, she's not that much more senior than our interns. So we like for them to hear from both the most senior leaders at the institution, but also kind of near peers as well. So you can sort of imagine what a career might look like. So I'm glad that kind of is stuck with you. So before we open it up to questions or comments from the audience, I'm curious, what would you say to a friend or colleague who is interested either in applying for leadership change or potentially being a supervisor?
But first, I would say apply. It is the most amazing experience, and even if initially, maybe this is something I'm kind of interested in, you can easily go in there and you learn that, this is definitely something you're probably interested in, or you can tailor it to somehow be something that you're interested in. So, and I would just advise them, this is the most amazing experience, and it is what you may get, and so put your best foot forward and get the best back. So.
Apply, do try your hardest, put your best foot forward, and work on something you learn because there's a place for everybody. Whatever you're interested in, there's something out there for you to apply for and apply yourself to. And as long as you try your best and focus on getting as much as you can out of the experience, it's going to be extremely rewarding. I would say that I was looking into maybe hosting different internship programs, maybe a particular one, or another program, kind of connecting with other folks who have run these types of programs and see what's worked and see what's maybe not worked, and kind of having the two of us kind of co-manage it was really great too, just kind of combining our different backgrounds and coming up with different ideas for these two. But it's, I highly recommend hosting some kind of internship program where you can bring in those professionals, because you'd be surprised how much you learn from them as well. And if you like being a mentor or guide in any way, it's a really good opportunity. And, even Aspen has asked me to give a reference for future internships for this summer and different jobs and things. And so being able to kind of have that network is good for both sides of the situation.
Yeah, mutually beneficial. That's what we have to. That's what we like to see, and that's what we see in these programs. So thank you all very much. But we're happy to open it up for questions for a few minutes if anyone has anything. And do we have mics or maybe not? Okay. Yeah.
I'm curious, did you find the internships at the Smithsonian website, or did someone direct you? And can a student who's not here find the application somewhere?
Yeah, I think both Austin and Aspen heard about the professors. Is that right?
Yes, I heard about mine from vice president of student affairs at my college.
I heard about mine through my school hosts different workshop days and presentations, and so when they had Smithsonian internships experiences, and it was one of them, and so I decided to apply.
So is that application online at the Smithsonian?
So you can find it. We post it on Handshake, which if you're familiar, I had to learn about Handshake when we launched this program, but that's actually where most students who apply hear about it. It's also, if you just Google Smithsonian internships, it won't be up there, it's not live right now, but it will be in December. You can also, and then we also do really kind of massive outreach to schools and universities across the country. So I would say Handshake and just looking on the Smithsonian internship page are the easiest ways to find out about it, but we're always looking for new ways to try to reach more and more students.
Okay, and added to that, what was the process and duration of the application?
I might remember this better than you all, so we launched the application in December, and it closes usually at the end of February, and then we like to have choices made basically by spring break, because we know that that's when students are making decisions about their summers. So it's actually, well, that's for the Smithsonian, that's like lightning fast, but I think it's relatively quick. So it's like a 3-month process. I will say that the Smithsonian system is a little cumbersome. And so there is sort of some things there to have to deal with, but we have staff who are really great about helping troubleshoot things like that if anybody runs into trouble.
So were there interviews, references, all that kind of
So we don't do interviews. We get so many applications, it's hard to do that. But we do ask for references, and there's some short essay questions and a resume. I will say that we are, for this internship, we actually really like to look for students who have not had an internship experience. And we often, our rubric that we use to evaluate applications actually privileges students who have not had a professional internship experience. That doesn't mean that we don't have students who have experience, but we really look for students who this is their first experience. We try to see this as like a launch point for students. So I always like to say that because I think sometimes people get intimidated by the Smithsonian, but this is actually really trying to open up the doors. Yep. Yeah.
On an earlier slide, you had shown us that the demand for this program far exceeds the current supply. From a program management perspective, what is the Smithsonian Institute doing to expand that currently, and also what are you considering in the future to increase the opportunities available?
Yeah, so I will say that, so our program is one of many in the Smithsonian. So the Smithsonian hosts about 3,000 interns total a year. So we're a piece of that. And just to be completely candid, the number of students we can host is completely based on the funding that we have. So this is all a privately funded program. And so our funding has gone up and down a little bit, and so that dictates the number of students. So we've been as high as 100, and this summer is our smallest cohort of 28. We're really trying to get back to 75 or 100. That's our goal. And so we're actively fundraising, and we actually are being successful. So our goal is to continue to build it back up.
And then second question, regardless of the fluctuations of the interns, are there measures in place to ensure, for instance, there's representation of various identities within each cohort of students?
Yeah, we, as I mentioned, our recruitment strategy is very broad, and our goal is to get wide representation. I will say though, we actually we do not see demographic information until after we've selected. We have had our internship cohort has been the most diverse of the Smithsonian every summer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Emily, and I have a question for everyone, but it'd probably be more specifically answered by Ms. Anna. What was your roadmap, like, if what I was understanding, roadmap research? What did that look like? What was the research process you were using?
So I started by going to the correspondence files in the museum archive just to see if they had any more that was involved in them. Usually it would have maybe a picture that I was first acquired, and it was like a big shelf necklace or indigenous practices. And most of the time I would have to go to Google Images and start from here. Try to find something that was similar or that. Some items are easier to build on some songs, specific to smaller communities that are very small. But with each item we have is going to be or process of finding
Yeah, the question was about alumni engagement. And so we have done a few things for our program participants in particular. One of the things, we really try to keep track of our students, so we do different surveys and things, and sort of where we're now. But actually, the Smithsonian Central Office of Academic Appointments and Internships has actually just launched a very robust alumni engagement, and so rather than trying to do our own, we're kind of wrapping into what they're doing. And so they just had the kickoff event this year. It was this spring. It was in person in DC. It was like 500 people that came. It was pretty amazing. And but I know that they're planning a lot of virtual and in-person events, things like lots of career-focused things, but also like book clubs and other things. So that's I'm really excited that that's kind of getting off the ground. Yeah.
It sounds like as an oddball with your internships, you gained a lot of really wonderful experience. So I'm interested whether it's through your placement site or through the 6 months. Yeah, not today. How you were able to pull everything together to highlight your learning from your internship and how that is helpful as you start to think about the next semester.
Yeah, that's a great question. I knew going into this that I was going to be learning a lot. I knew that there was going to be a lot of information, especially just because this was my first kind of real experience in the professional world. So one of those things that I actually did when I went in was I asked, I was like, can I actually help building my resume? Just because Leanne and Katie, all the other people there, they've had more experience in the professional world than I have. And so we went through and we actually had one huge long meeting, and I think we ended up getting a couple meetings of just sitting down and being like, this is how you should put this on your resume, and different things like that, and just thinking about all the different experiences I have from that, and just like each part of my resume. We also just ended up working on other parts of my resume too, like just fixing wording and things like that. So I went in knowing that I wanted help with how to articulate that, because it is a vast experience. So yeah.
Similar as when I knew going into the experience, I was gained a lot and I had a lot to take away. So I wanted to kind of ask a lot of questions I could. Networking because it was my first time in a professional setting in historical space, which is where I wanted my long-term career to come into. I learned that making connections is more about, or in today's society, it's a lot more about who you know rather than what you do. You know, it's just and so I tried to make a bigger effort to form these connections and also maintain them. So whenever I further on whatever it is my aspirations evolve into, I was able to look back on and ask for advice or the insight from just give her advice from people who are experienced and just feel back.
And I'll just share that because the Smithsonian has all these interns that come in the summer, every like museum or office kind of has their own internship lead, and so we have a wonderful colleague at the Museum of American History who's this great resume building, LinkedIn building workshops, and so she's been generous enough to invite our interns to that. So some of the things are, that might come out of the site, or they might come from other parts of the Smithsonian, so just trying to, we don't have the capacity to do everything in our office, but finding other opportunities for students. Yeah. Oh, thank you, I couldn't see. Yeah.
I did take a look at some of the opportunities and areas of interest students take if a student didn't see something they were interested in but really wanted to get involved with leadership for change, how would a student go about creating the opportunity that they're looking for as far as creating an internship that fits within Smithsonian values and what it is that leadership for change was created to facilitate?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a dance, I'll be honest, because we're looking at the students' interests, but then we also have to look at our colleagues and the projects that they have available. So we do our best to matchmake. My advice would be for the student to express those interests in their essays, and then that allows us to really understand what they're interested in, and then try to find the right match at the institution or at one of our affiliates.
And also to add to that, because as an affiliate, we always love when students just reach out to us like, hey, I love this topic. what can I do with you, or what can I learn? And so kind of being that little investigator, if, like this summer, we're not hosting interns from the Smithsonian, but we hope to again next, it's an ongoing relationship, but even in those cases, should we not have that particular program available at that time, there could be other opportunities within that organization. So just encourage them to kind of reach out to the general emails and those professionals that might be able to just point them in the right direction for, if they have their sights set on a particular organization that they want to learn from, then just keep digging and try to find that info.
And I think that we are just about out of time. I'm gonna flip to one last slide. Just with a great quote, I think that just reinforces what you've heard today about internships is transformative. They're hands-on learning experiences. So we're really proud of the internship program, and grateful to our supervisors like Annie, who's all possible, and of course wonderful students who come ready to learn and have an impact. So thank you all today for being with us today. And I think we'll probably hang around a little bit so if anybody has any other questions.
Awesome. Big round of applause. I really appreciate you not only sharing your experience, but also what it meant to you. And part of what we want to do today, obviously, is hear the voices that can inform the future. And y'all over-delivered. Okay, so we are straight up 12 o'clock. Thank you so much. We're going to serve lunch, and you actually go get your lunch. You have 3 choices. You have a salad with chicken, seared chicken. You have a turkey wrap, and they box are like beautiful. And then you have a vegan, gluten-free chili wrap.